I have spent the best years of my life giving people the lighter pleasures, helping them have a good time. And all I get is abuse. The existence of a haunted man.
That's not a victim speaking. That's Al Capone, the most dangerous man in America. A gangster who controlled an empire worth over $1 billion in today's money and genuinely believed he was a hero. But here's the thing, he might not have been entirely wrong because the United States government made him. And by the end of this video, I'm going to share a psychological principle that lawyers, detectives, manipulators, and top psychologists use in controlling people. A principle that explains not just how the Mafia was built, but why you keep seeing the same problems in your own life. The year is 1920. The United States passes the 18th Amendment, Prohibition. The manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol is now illegal across the entire country. The idea was simple. Alcohol was destroying families. It was fueling domestic violence, poverty, and crime. Religious groups, women's organizations, and politicians all agreed, ban the bottle and America would become a safer, more moral nation. On paper, it made sense. In reality, it was one of the most catastrophic policy failures in American history. Because here's what the government didn't understand. You cannot legislate away a human desire. You can only push it underground. And underground is exactly where it went. Before Prohibition, Alphonse Gabriel Capone was nobody, a street kid from Brooklyn, son of Italian immigrants. He dropped out of school at 14 after punching a teacher. He bounced between small-time gangs, running errands for men who would later become legends of organized crime. At 18, he got into a fight at a bar in Coney Island. A man slashed his face 3 times with a knife. That's where the name came from. Scarface, a name Capone despised, a name the world would never forget. But it was Prohibition that changed everything. In 1920, Capone's mentor, Johnny Torrio, called him to Chicago. Torrio saw what the government didn't understand, that banning alcohol didn't kill the demand, it killed the competition. Every legitimate bar, brewery, and distillery was now shut down. The entire market, millions of thirsty Americans, was up for grabs, and only criminals could serve them. Torrio handed Capone the keys to the operation, and Capone didn't just take them, he built an empire. By 1925, Al Capone was making an estimated $60 million a year. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $1.4 billion in today's money, from bootleg liquor alone. Add in gambling, prostitution, and protection rackets, and Capone was running one of the most profitable criminal organizations the world had ever seen. But what made Capone different from every other gangster wasn't just the money. It was the image. Capone opened soup kitchens during the Great Depression. He fed thousands of people when the government wouldn't. He tipped waiters $100 bills. He attended opera shows. He smiled for the cameras. The press loved him. The public loved him. He was public enemy number 1 and the most popular man in Chicago. Remember those words? I have spent the best years of my life giving people the lighter pleasures. He meant it. In his mind, he wasn't a criminal. He was a businessman filling a demand the government created. And honestly, economically, he wasn't entirely wrong. Before Prohibition, there were roughly 15,000 legal saloons in New York. During Prohibition, there were over 30,000 illegal speakeasies. The ban didn't reduce drinking, it doubled it. And every single glass poured was pouring money into organized crime. The government tried everything. They sent Elliot Ness and his team, the Untouchables, to dismantle Capone's bootlegging empire. They raided warehouses, they smashed barrels, they arrested his men. It didn't work. Capone had police on payroll, judges in his pocket, politicians at his dinner table. He was untouchable in his own right. So the government changed the game entirely. If they couldn't catch Capone for murder, if they couldn't catch him for bootlegging, they'd catch him for something no one can hide from: taxes. In 1931, Al Capone was convicted of tax evasion. Not murder, not racketeering. The man who built a billion-dollar empire on the back of one bad law was brought down by another law he thought didn't apply to him. By the time Capone was released in 1939, his mind was gone, ravaged by syphilis. He spent his final years confused, deteriorating, a shadow of the man who once owned Chicago. He died in 1947, alone. But here's what most people miss about this story. Prohibition ended in 1933. America admitted it was a mistake. But the Mafia didn't end. Capone was gone, but the infrastructure he built, the networks, the supply chains, the corruption, that survived. And the government did it again. The war on drugs, launched in 1971, followed the exact same playbook: ban the substance, criminalize the user, and then watch in disbelief as criminal empires rise to fill the void. The cartels of today are the Capones of yesterday. Different products, same psychology. The lesson is right there in history. When you try to destroy a problem without understanding the need behind it, the problem doesn't disappear. It transforms, it gets stronger, and it finds a way back. And this brings me to the most important part of this video, because this principle doesn't just apply to governments and gangsters, it applies to you. What I'm about to share with you is a psychological principle used by lawyers, top negotiators, and psychologists to influence people and resolve conflicts that seem impossible. Pay close attention, because once you understand this, you will never look at a problem the same way again. From the story of Al Capone, one thing becomes painfully clear. When humans face a problem, we attack the problem. We almost never look at the need that's creating it. It's a tool I learned during a mediation program I took some years back as a lawyer. It's called the onion model, and I'm going to show you how to master it. Every person and every problem has 3 layers. On the surface is the position, what we see at first glance. Underneath that is the interest, the reason behind the action. And at the core is the need, the underlying force that truly drives the behavior. Most people never get past the surface. Top negotiators live at the core. Let me show you how this works. Say you're handling an interrogation. A man was caught stealing money. An ordinary person looks at him and sees a thief. Case closed. But here's what separates you from everyone else. Apply the onion model, and you do it with one powerful word: why. This single word pierces through the intentions of even the most hardened criminals. So you ask, why did he steal? And the surface answer is obvious. He needed money. No surprise there. But now you go deeper. Why does he need the money? And suddenly, the picture changes. His daughter is sick. His family is struggling. He just wants to live a decent life. Now, are these excuses in the eyes of the law? No. But from experience, I can tell you this. If that man's needs are not addressed, when he's released, he will commit the same crime. Because his needs are still there. They don't disappear with a prison sentence. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happened with Prohibition. The government banned alcohol without addressing the needs that cause people to take them, leading to the creation of the Mafia. Now, let me show you the dark side of this tool. Think about one of the most well-known manipulators ever studied, Hannibal Lecter. If you've read him or watched him closely, you will notice something. He never manipulates people based on their surface, what their lives look like on the outside. He goes straight for the need, their inner nature, the real desires they've suppressed. He develops those and uses them as the leash. That's the power of the onion model. In the right hands, it builds trust. In the wrong hands, it builds control. So how do you actually use this? Next time you're in a negotiation and someone throws out a price, don't argue the number. Find their needs. Maybe the minimum they'll accept is far lower. Or sometimes, and I've seen this in real cases, the other side doesn't even want money. They want acknowledgement. They want an apology. But because no one bothered to ask why, the whole thing escalates into a war over nothing. Next time your boss is being unreasonable, or an employee is underperforming, or someone is being cruel to you, don't react to the surface. Ask why. Then ask why again. I'll leave you with this. Abraham Lincoln once wrote an order to General Meade, commanding him to attack a retreating Confederate army. Meade refused. The war was extended. Lincoln was furious. He sat down and wrote a scathing letter tearing the general apart, every line dripping with frustration. That letter was found in Lincoln's desk after his death. It was never sent. Lincoln had stopped himself. He probably asked, why did this man refuse? What had he seen on that battlefield that I couldn't see from the White House? He found the general's need, and it stopped him from destroying a man who may have had every reason for what he did. This tool goes both ways. It can build the deepest relationships you've ever had. Or, on the dark side, once you understand a person's core need, it gives you the power to control them. Pick your poison. If this changed how you think, subscribe. I break down the hidden psychology behind the forces that shape our world. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read each one.